think it's pretty good. There we go. So here is the treat I am talking about. It is a treat pouch that includes a very special treat. I'm going to show you what's inside in just a minute. I will be walking you through creating this project. It is a nice size inside. I just have to pull the little bow, open that up, pull that open, and look at that. It's a stroop waffle, authentic Dutch caramel cookie. So good for fall treats, right? Wouldn't you love to have that with a little cup of coffee or a cup of tea? So this is a perfect little treat to make for your adult friends and family. Kids might like it too, but here's a little spin on the usual pouch of candies. So here's what we're going to need to recreate this project. First of all, let me share with you the cute little stamp set that I'm using. It is called Seasons of Fun. It is a host set, which means if you offer a workshop that meets a minimum number of orders or a minimum amount of orders, you can choose to purchase this for just $12, or it's also going to be featured in an upcoming class. So two ways to get your hands on this cute little stamp set. As well as the stamp set, I will be using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So those are some of my supplies. I will be coloring that cute little pumpkin girl. I like Skater Girl. She's just adorable on those little old style skates and wearing her little pumpkin costume with her little jack-o'-lantern ready to collect the treats. I have colored her with watercolor pencils. They are available from Stampin' Up. Everything I share with you is Stampin' Up product. I love the quality, the coordination, the colors, everything is just top notch with Stampin' Up. I'm using watercolor pencils and I have already pulled the colors that I'm going to be using. They are watercolor pencils, so I need a little bit of moisture to spread the color around. So I'll be using another tool called a blender pen. So that's how I'm going to create the color on my project. And here are the consumables that you need. So we are starting with a piece of cardstock. I have just cut it using my essential tool number one, my paper trimmer that cuts and scores. So I have already cut it. Right now it measures 4 inches by 11 inches. And I am going to be scoring it, which means I'm going to put a little crease in the paper to help it fold easily. And I can use the same tool to score. But I am going to want to extend this tool, the little arm that gives me a longer range to measure. I'm going to put my cardstock up against the lip of the paper trimmer on the long end, and my first score line is going to be at 4 3/4. So I'm looking at the numbers right here. I'm going to come over to 4 3/4, and I'm going to put the little arm down and bring the score blade up. My next score line is going to be just a 1/4 inch over at 5. So I'm not even going to lift the paper off the trimmer. I'm just going to slide it over to 5, put the arm down, and score. And what I'm doing is creating a little bit of depth to allow for that cookie treat to fit in the pouch easily. I'm going to lift my arm. I'm going to slide over to my next score line, which is 9 3/4. And remember, you do not need to remember all of these dimensions. I will have a PDF that you can download or view that gives you the measurements again. And I am done scoring, so I'm going to go ahead and put my essential tool number 1 away. That's my paper trimmer. And the next thing I'm going to do is bring in essential tool number 2, which is my bone folder. And I am going to fold up this cardstock on the score lines. I'm going to flip it over. There is an indentation on this side. I want the indentation on the outside. So I'm going to fold that up, and you can see it goes over easily now that I have scored it. And my bone folder is used to just make a nice crisp fold. So I'm going to kind of slide it over right on that score line. I have another score line just a 1/4 inch up. So I'm going to fold that up as well. And I'm going to bring in my bone folder and burnish this down as well so that I have a nice crisp fold. This is my time to make sure that everything is nice and even. And the next fold is going to actually be down. I'm going to take that last flap, which is just 1.25 inches, and I'm going to fold it down and score. Or sorry, burnish. There we go. Okay, so now I have my treat pouch, and you can see there's about 1/4 inch width right in there. That's going to accommodate my cookie right inside the treat pouch. So now I'm going to start with my stamping. I'm going to put that aside for a second. I am going to be stamping on a little circle disc. It's just basic white paper, and I pre-cut it with one of my circle dies on one of my other essential tools, the mini cut and emboss machine. And I'm going to be stamping that little skater girl, which comes from the stamp set. And I'm going to use my Memento black ink, which is one of my essential tools. And I'm going to just grab some ink right on there. Make sure I've got a nice generous amount. I want a nice dark impression. And I'm going to stamp onto my circle, pretty much centered. Stamp it down and press down firmly. I'm trying not to move it so I don't have a blurry image. I'm going to bring that up. And there is my nicely stamped image. I'm done with the stamp and the ink, so I'm going to put that aside. And next I am going to color up my little skater girl. So I mentioned the watercolor pencils. I am using a color called Daffodil Delight for her hair. So here's what I love about stamping. You could customize it for any colors that you need. So if you have a little blonde girl, you can use the yellow pencil. You could use a brown, you could use a black, a mixture. So easy. And you're going to see I am just kind of laying down color. I'm not really being neat about it. I just kind of scribbled some color onto that image, and I'm done with the yellow. I'm going to bring that up. Next I'm going to do her skin, and I'm using a color called Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to kind of scribble that on there. It's kind of a pinkish tone, and because it's kind of pinky, I actually added a tinge of yellow as well, a very small amount, just to kind of blend that in. So it's going to look more like she has a little suntan. And I'm using the same colors for her hands. Just going to bring that in. And again, I'm just kind of scribbling the color on there. This isn't precision coloring like we used to do with our coloring books and our crayons. We're just getting some of the color off of the pencil onto our image. So I've got my hands and face. The next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of old olive green to the pumpkin stem, and then over on her collar as well. She's got like a little leafy collar going on. Whoops, and I just noticed I forgot to do, there's a sliver of her neck there, so I'm going to bring in some pink for that, the Calypso Coral. Okay, so I've got my green going on, and notice I'm not blending anything yet. I'm going to bring in next my pumpkin pie. It's a really pretty orange for fall, and I'm going to apply some color to her hat, which is the top of the pumpkin, and to her costume. And again, I'm just kind of scribbling that color on. I don't need to be neat about it. That's going to come in the next step. I'm going to apply color for her little jack-o'-lantern candy carrier, and I'm going to bring in some stripes on her shirt. So every other stripe is going to be pumpkin pie, just like so. And also on her leggings, so pumpkin pie, every other stripe, just like so. And next I'm going to bring in my black, so it's a orange and black shirt, so I'm going to fill in a little bit of black here. And again, not being neat about it. I have a special tool that's going to come in and bring the color out a little bit nicer. And then I'm going to make her skates, or her shoes and her skates, black. There's kind of like a black boot. I think it's stinking cute, these little girl on the skates. So old school. Okay, so let me bring that in closer so you can see. It doesn't look very pretty yet. I'm going to bring in this little tool, my blender pen, and I'm going to blend in the color a little bit nicer. And this has 2 tips on it. It's just for blending, and it's reusable. So I'm just going to kind of clean it by brushing on my paper. Now I'm ready to blend in strokes, and it's going to bring in her skin tone a little bit nicer. You're not going to see all those little scribbles. Also her hands. And between colors, I'm just going to kind of blend it off on the side, clean it off. Now I'm going to do her hair, her golden hair. And I'm just kind of scribbling that through, or sorry, brushing that through, which is blending in all of those little scribble lines that I scratched earlier to put the color down. And then next I'm going to do the green. So I'm trying to go from my lightest colors to my darkest colors. There we go, there's her green. And then I'm ready for the pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to blend this in and get the color spread on there. This is really, really quick and easy. The little blender pen has some moisture on it. It's not quite water, it's some kind of anonymous solution. And this blender pen, they are sold in packs of 3, and they will last you a very long time. I often just get the pack of 3 and share with a friend because you only need one, as long as you're cleaning it right after you use it. You do not want to just put it away and then go to clean it next time you're ready to use it, because it will be a little bit soiled. And then finally I'm going to blend in that black. And so simple, so cute. This is going to make a nice little surprise treat for friends who like to have a little cup of coffee or tea. It's a nice little fall treat. And there we go. I just colored up little skater girl. I'm cleaning off my blender pen. There you go. And I'm going to push that aside, and I'll bring that in closer so you can see how nicely she's colored in now. And I'm going to put my little image away and bring back in my pouch. I'm ready to decorate. I've got some pretty pumpkin pie pattern paper, and this measures just 4 inches across by 2 inches high, the same width as my pouch. And then I've got a little contrasting strip of Old Olive. These are the same colors that I used in the little girl, which is what's amazing about Stampin' Up, the color coordination. Now this is just going to peek out behind the pumpkin pie, so I'm going to layer these up together. And I didn't need an entire cutting. I just want a little bit to peek out, so I'm not going to be wasteful with this paper that's just going to be covered up anyway. I'm going to bring in my favorite adhesive, which is multi-purpose liquid glue. This is very forgiving, very easy to apply. It's just $4 for the little bottle, which will last a good amount of time. And I just want a tiny bit. When you apply too much glue, it's going to ooze out and make a sticky mess. So I'm just applying a little snail trail of glue, and you can see I have a work surface that has grid paper on it. Stampin' Up! Does sell this grid paper. It's very convenient for working on because you have your measurements. There's actually a ruler below, and then the 1/4 inch grids all throughout the paper pad, and I love it for crafting because it really helps out. I'm using the 1/4 inch grid lines to help me keep this straight. You could just eyeball it. Just a little extra help to keep it straight. What I love about the multi-purpose liquid glue is it's very forgiving. So if you don't stick your layers together precisely the first time, you have a little bit of time to wiggle that and tweak it and make it right. Now this is going to be applied to the pouch front, right at the base. So I'm going to unfold that to make it a little bit easier, and I'm going to apply some liquid glue on the layer that we just created. This brings out the nice colors of fall, that pretty green, the pretty orange, pumpkin pie, and Old Olive. Those are just Stampin' Up! Colors. Stampin' Up! Always names their colors, such sweet names. And I'm going to abut this to the base front. I can see my crease right on there, my score fold, and I'm going to just make sure that that's adhered nicely. Now what I like to do is actually flip it over, and I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish that so it's stuck on there nicely. It's not going to peel off. And there we go. So now we have our pouch front created. I'm going to punch some holes in here. That's how I'm going to string my ribbon through. And I'm using just a standard hole punch. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So you could use any hole punch. And I'm going to push it in about almost to the end of the punch, maybe about 1.5 inches from both sides. And I kind of have to muscle it through because I'm going through 2 layers of thick white cardstock. And let's see, I'm going to slide that through and punch as well. There we go. And that is going to allow me to feed my little black and white checkered ribbon. So sweet. I only need 14 inches of this ribbon. And I am ready to insert my treat, my stroopwafel authentic Dutch caramel cookie. These are so tasty. I don't know if you've ever had them before. You can make it warm by placing this right over your coffee cup or your tea cup, and a little bit of that steam is going to come up and warm the cookie and melt the caramel inside. They are delicious. Where did I get them? My favorite place to shop online. So I'm going to bring in another kind of adhesive. This is called Stamp and Seal Plus. It is adhesive on a dispenser, and I'm just going to make an X on the back side of my pouch. So it's just a little trail, maybe 2 inches of an X. You can barely see that X there. That is going to hold the cookie in place. You don't need to do anything fancy. It's just packaging. The recipient is going to want to open it up and pull out the cookie, so we want to make it easy. It's just stuck on there with a little bit of adhesive. I'm going to fold up, bring that down. Here's where I'm going to put my little ribbon in to close that up. And my tip for getting the ribbon through those little tight spaces, you will want to trim it at the diagonal so you have a little pointy end. And I am using my paper snips. I have 2 that I keep in my craft toolbox. One has a little ribbon and one does not. The one with the ribbon is exclusive for ribbon cutting. The other one cuts paper. If you start cutting paper with your ribbon scissors, the blades will dull, and rather than cutting, it's going to kind of chew at your ribbon or fabric, and it's not going to have the nice clean cut that you want. You're after crisp, clean lines on your craft projects. There we go. And I'm just feeding the ribbon through from back to front on the front of the pouch. And I'm going to do the same on the flap. So I'm just going from back to front. And that little diagonal allows me to push through just the end of the ribbon and pull it through. So I'm just going to push it through that tiny little 1/8 inch hole, pull it through. And now I'm going to tie a nice little bow. I like to do an X on the left. I'm going to bring it down and behind, and then I'm going to do a 90-degree turn. My top ribbon comes forward as a loop. My front ribbon, trying to get this through, my front ribbon is going to cross and go behind and then bring it through the loop. There we go, our pretty little ribbon, our pretty little bow. And I'm not going to worry about the frayed ends. They do fray as you're working with the ribbon, but I'm going to leave the details until last. And then finally, I'm going to put my cute little skater girl on there with my Stampin' Dimensionals that give my project some depth. And I'm going to put about 3 on here on the lower half, just to make sure that that's secure on my pouch. Flip that over, and here's the star of the show, little skater girl with the cookie treat inside. And there you have it. One last thing, let's clean up those ribbon ends, cutting in the diagonal and also on this side. There we go. And we now have our treat pouch ready to go. This was created with the Seasons of Fun stamp set. Now I have another similar pouch that's Halloween. So this one's filled with candy, and you can see the base is a little bit wider to accommodate more treats. This would be great for kids who love those chocolates or adults that love the chocolate treats. And of course for the cookie, we didn't need that wide base. So I've got two kinds of pouches going on. Now, if you like that little Seasons of Fun Skater Girl, you are gonna love my upcoming class using the same stamp set. I talked about the exclusivity of the stamp set. Typically, it's only available to hostesses. However, I am offering a class to create 8 holiday cards, fall cards. They are happy cards. They all have happy. You can see there's little skater girl. There's the cute little boy playing in the leaves. It's all fall. Again, happy. And then we come into winter, so we have the little girl pulling the sled with a little Christmas tree, and again the word happy. And finally, one of my favorites, we have the little dog catching the snowflake, and he's just saying joy. So my card class creates 8 of these cards, and it will include, I've got my little flyer here, it will include that Seasons of Fun stamp set, so you don't have to worry about hostessing a workshop to get the stamp set. You're gonna get a full pack of paper, the same kind of paper I used on my treat pouch. You're gonna get a full pack of rhinestones. Every project, every card needs some bling, so I'm gonna include that for you. You'll get the cardstock, the die cuts, everything cut and prepped for you to just relax and craft. You're also going to get the envelopes to send off the cards, and you're gonna get a step-by-step PDF tutorial to follow along with. Now, here's what's not included in the class. To complete the cards as I have designed them, you will need the watercolor pencils, or you could use any kind of coloring tool that you might happen to have. You will need that essential tool, Memento black ink. You'll need a blender pen and an acrylic block, and I let you know which blocks you need to mount those stamps. Your alternative is to use a stamp apparatus when you only need one stamp apparatus. And then you're going to need your adhesive, your multi-purpose liquid glue, and your Stampin' Dimensionals. If you are interested in this class, I will be posting the links to join. You have to register by October 2nd. Class is shipping on or about October 9th, and it is $53. That includes everything you need, as I showed, except for the items that are not included in class. $53 includes your shipping and your card kit and your stamp set and your paper and your rhinestones. So you'll have most of the items that you need. And then there's some general crafty tools that you need as well. Some of the essential tools, your paper snips, your paper trimmer, and maybe a stamp cleaner. So there you go. Fun projects for fall. I invite you to click over to Just Stamp with Anna Marie today at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for another project featuring the Seasons of Fun. Join my mailing list and you will learn about all upcoming classes and promotions, and I send out weekly inspiration as well. And I will put the link for that as well below this video. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that I've inspired you and you will attempt to make one of the fall treat pouches. Thanks for joining.